What is your bullet freaking dodged moment? When I was about 23, I was asked on a date by a Brazilian girl who was maybe early 30s. We went on a date, but it wasn't the most interesting evening. We didn't click and the language barrier meant we couldn't get past basic conversation. I was a little resistant to a second date and felt it was fair game to say sorry I didn't think we clicked. The next time I saw her in person though I was scolded with a bunch of insults hurled as she claimed we were supposed to get married and have kids and that I was the one. I'm very glad I was able to back away slowly and dodge that bullet. My great-great-grandfather had a ticket for the Titanic but met my great-great-grandmother who was going to America sooner. He decided he couldn't wait to see her again and bought a ticket for an earlier boat. Back when I was young and impressionable, someone stopped me on the street and asked if I'd like to do a free personality test. After enthusiastically filling out the answers to a long list of probing questions, the person who'd approached me asked how old I was. Since I was under 18, they said they'd have to get a parent's permission to give me my results. They call my mom, who tells them to stick their test up their R, or words to that effect, then proceeds to give me an extended talking to about trusting strange people with my personal information. And that's how I learned who the Church of Scientology was. Holy crap, dude, you definitely dodged a bullet. Going into our second year of university, we were looking for houses together. We'd found one we liked and sat with the estate agent to sign the paperwork. Out of nowhere, one of the group started hysterically crying and ran out of the room shouting, "I can't live there, it's got mildew and I'm allergic." We didn't end up living with her, but the people who did had a year of her brazenly stealing their phones, money, clothes and boyfriends. Bullet dodged. So in 2006, I was losing weight so that I could finally afford health insurance. I figured out that if I lost 60 pounds, a $5,000 deductible plan would be roughly $100 per month cheaper. In 2007 I lost the weight and I got insurance on February 1st and went to get my first checkup in a long while. Everything comes back clean. On March 15th I went home and my dad, a physician, didn't like the look of me and took me to get some scans. Turns out the weight I lost was due to cancer and the previous doctor had flicked up and not run the right tests. But because he had flicked up and given me a clean bill of health, the insurance company couldn't claim that the cancer was a pre-existing condition despite my having insurance for less than 90 days. The cancer is all gone, but I didn't get stuck with a $500,000 hospital bill because of a doc who fricked up. I was making a day trip to Colorado to do some sightseeing. It was just me and the dog, driving a few hours over Wolf Creek Pass. I felt a little off and stopped up near the top of the pass to get some fresh air at a waterfall. I figured I was just sleepy and at altitude, so I decided to hike the mile round trip to the falls and wake up a bit. On the way back down the trail I had a seizure. If I'd not stopped I would have been coming down the pass when it happened. That's a steep pass descending into Pagosa Springs. I'm guessing you stopped at Treasure Falls. That could have been bad. You did dodge one. Worked for a campus PD while I was in college. Had been, unsuccessfully, flirting a bit with one of our part-time clerks who was a mother twice over at 22, living in Section 8 housing, etc. Not a bad thing in and of itself, just providing some context. My longtime girlfriend had bounced a few months back, so I had thrown myself into my work and was advancing quickly in the department. Well, enough that I had a salaried slot on the horizon. Feeling good about things in general, I figured I'd just roll with it when she suddenly started giving me the time of day. Had our first big night of romance coming on a Saturday night, when I got a text from OFC derp that just said cancel. Now, well, wasn't sure what the F was up, but I did just that. Called her up on the spot and said sorry, the problem with my car, no way I could get it to a shop and out in time for our date. She didn't have a car. A few hours later I swung by the PD and he told me what had happened. She had worked earlier in the day and was at the front desk, not realizing OFC derp was in the squad room. You can hear conversations up front from there. He overheard her on her Cell talking to one of her girlfriends about how she was going to get paid tonight girl. Followed by no, I'm only like 5 weeks. He won't be able to tell cause the dates will be close. God bless you, Brian. God bless you. Plus Christ. Brian is the man. I had a type of bone cancer, Ewing's sarcoma, when I was 10. It usually shows up in the bone itself, which usually makes one lose whichever limb the bone is in. Mine, fortunately, started in the surrounding flesh and was working its way towards the bone. The tumor grew so fast that I only realized it when I bumped my leg against a rock that I should not have hit. The tumor was about the size of a softball. Because of finding it like this, we got to it early enough that it could be removed before it reached the bone. I still have 9 months of chemo to make sure it was all removed though. I kept my leg, although I have a large scar on the outside of my left leg above the knee running to mid-thigh, and a large dip in the same area. Also have some kidney damage relating to the type of chemo they gave me, although things are looking up there. This May I was 6 years cancer-free, and I would have lost my leg if we would have caught it any later. My condolences to those who have lost someone to S. I had the same kind of cancer and the same thing happened to me. It hit my left arm and I don't have a shoulder joint anymore. I came to this freaking close to losing an arm. Was traveling somewhere on a highway behind a logging truck. When we were going uphill, the truck changed lanes and a log slipped off, bounced between the car I was in and another car, and rebounded off the highway into the nearby forest. There was no one immediately behind us. Lived outside of Street Louis in my early childhood, woke up screaming in the worst pain of my life, and then felt my face get sprinkled with something. I got shot in the hip, and when I sat up a bullet went through my window right where my head was just at. And what sprinkled me in the face were tiny pieces of glass. So I dodged a literal bullet, by taking a bullet. Expected this to get lost in the sauce, but here are some details someone else asked about. So my bed was right next to my bedroom window, parallel to the wall. The end of the bed where my head was right next to the window. The bullet entered the wall and struck me in my left hip, so I guess I was sleeping on my stomach. The windows were really weird now that I think about it. It was 2 single-pane pieces of glass separated by 6 inches. And since both of them had a hole in them, you could stick a rod in and see that the bullet traveled right where my head had just been on my pillow. Another side story connected to this now that I think about those windows. One time I came home from school, I noticed the inner window was shattered and there was blood all over the place. Turned out it was my dog that tried to launch herself through the window. We were pretty certain that someone was at my window scoping it out. She was super defensive of all of us. I'm pretty sure this actually occurred after the shooting. My ex-boyfriend told me he was sterile. I started insisting on condoms anyway, just in case. Eventually I broke up with him. He currently has 2 kids with the girl he started dating after me. That would be awkward if he was telling the truth and those kids weren't his. When I was back in high school, I was walking near the field when they were practicing their discus throw. One of the discus was wrongly thrown and was headed for my head. A friend who at that time was walking towards me saw this and yelled for me to duck. The discus went past my head and landed behind me. Then I realized that I could have died if my friend hadn't warned me. Imagine a 2 kg flying disc lands right on your forehead. Once I met a girl online and took her out to dinner at a nicer place in our town. She was horrible to the server and got us kicked out because she called the manager a C. After that, we walked out and she wanted me to go back to her place to watch a movie, which I refused and went home. 2 months later I was reading the paper and saw her in the police blotter for assaulting her boyfriend with a golf club. Good thing she didn't ask you to go clubbing with her, then. I just survived a heart attack on Thursday, so there's that. BTW, I'm 33, way too young for this crap. To all of those asking, not overweight. Skipped class to watch a segment on a morning talk show with my favorite actor. Avoided a school shooting. Had I gone, I would have been in the cafeteria right when and where the shooter started his spree. Crap, I forgot about the time when I faked being sick and stayed home to watch TV, and some guy ended up stabbing people during my lunch period. I don't think I would have been one of the people he targeted, Knives are a little more specific than guns, but yeah, totally forgot that happened.
Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.